Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session of GradChat here. It's Thursday, the 2nd of July. My name is Tavita Lasuma, and I'm the GM for Student Engagement at GSA, and I'm welcomed by Sophie Bryant from our Careers in Employability at the University of Melbourne, and also we have Andrew Lee in the background supporting us with holding the session together as our tech person. So thank you, Andrew. So before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the land of the Yakult Willang clan of the Boonwurrung, where I'm actually hosting from today. So that's St Kilda. I pay respects to the elders, past and present, and recognise the strength, resilience, and the capacity of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in this land. So yeah, as I said before, as GSA strives to support grad students in transitioning to work or working out different ways to support students to getting that job or applying for that job or updating themselves to be on the top pile of those applications. We have partnered up with the university's Careers in Employability, and we have Sophie Bryant with us. So Sophie's background is as a secondary teacher, education officer in the Royal Parks in London, and is a developmental advisor. I got it out in the end at the University of Melbourne, which means that she brings different perspectives, experiences, and understanding to career conversations. She really enjoys speaking with students to provide insights in assisting students in developing self-efficiency and finding answers to their questions. She aims to provide resources and practical steps for students to take to assist them in setting goals, enhancing their skill development, and finding meaningful employment. Welcome, Sophie. Welcome back, actually. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Tavita. A pleasure to be back. And yeah, good afternoon to everyone who's logged on. I know that you're probably just over the hump of a really busy time of semester, and maybe turning your mind to thinking about your career development. So you're in the right place today. So yeah, I'll jump in. Would you like me to start now, Tavita?
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to this session. And if you're not sure the title or the topic of what we're in here for, it's really interesting. It's about networking and also sort of working you through your LinkedIn profile. So there's a lot of subtopics within that, but yeah, really looking forward to the session. Thanks, Sophie.
Things online as we go, although you're welcome to do that. But please know that will be circulated after this session as well. So hopefully this will be a practical session that you can take away lots of ideas about building your networks. Okay, so we're going to focus on resources that you can access to be informed about potential careers, roles and industry, okay, and how you can build your network effectively. So what are the learning outcomes we hope to cover off today? We hope that you'll be able to describe the techniques to make a good impression. This is really key in looking to build networks. Identifying the steps for general networking conversations and professional discussions using the form technique, and I'll cover off on that as well. And just letting you know the information about some of these techniques I have also included in the resources list for you. We're going to look at how you can develop the elements of an elevator pitch and find resources for networking opportunities also. So what is networking? We hear this word thrown about. It seems to be one of those buzzwords. Networking is basically an ongoing activity we will continue throughout our studies, ongoing lifelong learning journeys, and community involvement, and in our professional life as well. So networking involves building professional relationships, exchange of knowledge and contacts, helping other people. This is one that may not immediately occur to you when you think about networking, but it is a reciprocal exchange of ideas, helping people, passing on information, paying it forward, so to speak. Developing lifelong skills. This is really important. Networking is one of those lifelong skills you need, and it's really surprising to me when I meet students, they don't recognise their own networks, and we'll go on to that more later. So networking can be structured and professional. Okay, you've got to keep your eye on the prize. Who can you reach out to? How can you keep going on a structured approach and a professional approach to leverage your networks? And networking is not about asking for a job. That's really key. When I'm talking about reaching out to people and networking today, in whatever capacity, asking for a job is not the topic of conversation. Okay, so we'll move on to that now. So thinking about finding opportunities for networking. So where are there opportunities to network for you? This is a recurring theme when I speak to students, and even students who have significant work experience are not necessarily aware of the extent of their own network and how to extend the network. So where to start in thinking about your networks? So ask yourself, who do you know that has a link to your career area or career goal or your study area? Okay, so I like to think of this, and this was a great find. I didn't create this infographic, but I think it demonstrates the idea really well, that you're in the middle of your network, and then it has concentric circles demonstrating that you can start off with your nearest and dearest. Start off raising the idea with your closest family, friends, or people who have worked in your area of interest or within an associated organisation. Ask them, do you know anyone? Okay, because they're going to be able to put you immediately in contact with someone. They might work in the area themselves. I spoke to a student today who was looking to biomed student looking to go into the Doctor of Medicine. Her parents both work in hospitals, not as medical professionals, but they have the links then that can perhaps be of assistance to their daughter. So thinking about the next layer, who in your friendship network, who do you know from your fellow students or colleagues? What about your colleagues or classmates? Have you got a tutor or a subject coordinator you could approach about talking about finding opportunities, looking for organisations that may be linked to your career goals? How about a guest lecturer for one of your subjects? Did they do the job that you'd love to do? Are they working in an organisation or company that you would like to get involved in or know more about? I've recently had a student appointment. It was an undergrad student who was in a lecture. There was a guest lecturer. She's contacted them. So she's extended her network and actually created her own internship position as a result of that contact with a guest lecturer. So just by reaching out and making contact with someone in your network who has been introduced to you, you can create your own opportunities. Okay, who have you met in industry through projects or internships that you've been involved in? Who have you heard speak at a faculty industry event or in a panel discussion? Could you make a contact with them to thank them for their insights and ask them some pertinent questions? They may respond with more than you actually even realised could be possible. Okay, and then also consider even your neighbours and people you know from community groups or volunteering that you've engaged in. These are all people within your network, and starting conversations with them is a great place to explore and expand your networks. And think about then who those people might know to extend your network even further.
Sorry, Sophie, I was just going to say, it's interesting when you talk to students and you say, well, you know, you need to reach out to your network. So I don't really know many people. But if you break it down like you just did, especially with that graphic, I think we all know a lot of people, and we know a lot of people that know people that know people. And I think it's interesting that if you sort of break out of that routine to thinking the only people you know is the people you share a meal with or you're on the phone with a lot, then that's not really the network we're talking about. We're talking about those outer layers that, you know, that actually give you the opportunity. And as you said before, you don't go and get a job. You know, you're not asking for a job from a network. You're just building the relationships, aren't you?
That's right. And building that really positive impression, which we'll go into. And interestingly, I did meet a graduate student the other day, and this was a woman who had significant experience as in education, and she was doing the Masters of Advanced Social Work. And she had questions about how to break into the industry of social work, not having case management experience. And I suggested, as a first port of call, speak to her subject coordinators. And that just hadn't dawned on her as someone that has had, you know, significant, like must have been 30 plus years in work experience, working overseas in international projects.
Wow, yeah.
And that hadn't occurred to her to ask that simple question of her subject coordinators. And that's really important about establishing that rapport, that open dialogue, and that tutor or that subject coordinator might keep you in mind and say, hey, following on from that conversation that we were having the other day about breaking into social work, not having a lot of case management experience, here's an opportunity for you. Okay, you just never know.
Fantastic.
So it is like the last time we talked about being proactive in your job search, and networking is really a key of that proactivity. Okay, so it's important to think beyond who you know. Okay, so who do you know that might know somebody you would like to meet? So it's like even jumping out of that circle and tapping into a whole other person's circle as well. So it's really important to reach out to networks, to tap into those unknown connections and opportunities, because they'll remain unknown, unexplored, out of reach and non-existent unless you take action. So ask yourself who you know that knows somebody that you might want to know, and how do you create opportunities that you didn't know existed? Okay, so what can you do? So you can start by letting your network know that you're looking for opportunities to extend your network into your professional sphere. You can ask people who they know and find out more about your contacts networks. Okay, so that's what Tavita was saying. You know, we do know lots of people, and by having those conversations on the topic of networking, on extending your professional identity and reach, you're going to uncover conversations and connections. It's that whole idea of 6 degrees of separation. You wouldn't believe how small a town Melbourne really is once you start talking to people. Or someone at Melbourne Uni knows someone. Or would you believe that they actually worked with that person? You know, and it goes out from there. Oh, you know that person. Could you, recommend, would you mind if I mention them, mention you in a conversation to start another networking opportunity? So this is the idea of, you don't know where a conversation could lead unless you engage in that conversation. If you don't engage with your current network, you could be missing chances to create connections and opportunities. Extending your network. Now, students often to me, some students really feel a little bit uncertain. They're like, oh, I'm a bit hesitant to extend and talk to people I don't know, which is totally understandable. But I prompt in students to ask the questions, what could happen if? Or why wouldn't you give it a go? Think to yourself, what's the worst thing that could happen? I might be a bit embarrassed. They might never reply. Okay, but what could happen if you put yourself out there, even in an email, to connect with someone? Okay, so to extend your network, here are some ideas and things that you can do as of the end of this session to get started on extending your network. Okay, so extending your network will require research and time put aside to find out about events and chances to put yourself outside of your established network. There are university mentoring programs by faculty, and I have the link in the resources package for you. There is an Ask.Alumni platform, and I'll go into this in more detail over the next few slides, but that is an established network that you can tap into. So I'll talk about the benefits of that. There are University of Melbourne events. So attending sessions that the GSA is putting on, attending opportunities in the GSA course clubs, for example, clubs and societies within the GSA or within UMSU, within the university. There are also careers events, okay, put on by our team and also teams within your faculties. They can be industry specific. And I know that engineering puts on lots of industry-specific panels, for example, and bringing in people to talk to its students. So a lot of these events are now going virtual. For example, we had a couple of careers expos last semester, which were very popular and attended by hundreds of students. We're now shifting these to a virtual careers expo. So by attending sessions like this and hopefully engaging in some more careers and employability workshops, it's a great opportunity for you to practice networking, meeting people in that virtual world. Okay, there's also an organisation called Meetup, which has networking events for professionals. So you can go into Meetup, onto their website, and look at the range of professional sort of meetup groups that they have and consider joining one of those, because then you're going to get the opportunity to engage with professionals in a field, know where they work, ask them questions about what it's like to work in that industry. How did they get started? What tips do they have for you? Okay, and another key opportunity for extending your network is, of course, in LinkedIn and in social media, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail later on. And all the links for these are in the resources as well. So I mentioned the Ask.Alumni program at the university. So this is a mentoring program. You sign up and you create your profile. So I describe it almost as like a mini safe and secure LinkedIn, where the people, the mentors, so former students of the University of Melbourne in all sorts of professions, careers, industries, have signed up. And would you believe there are over 2,000 alumni signed up to this program, and that's growing all the time. And I hope that you will one day be part of this program on the other side once you're successfully in your career. So over 2,000 professionals are signed up to this program, and they're volunteering. They're expecting students like yourself to contact them to arrange a meeting. Okay, so in your profile, it only takes about 10 minutes to set up your profile, and away you go. Okay, so once your profile is established, an algorithm happens in the background, which I cannot explain, but I can assure you it matches you up with your best matches according to what you're looking for, your course, your industry you're hoping to go into, and it'll bring up some mentors suggested for you. You can also click on the left-hand side where the arrow is. It's not very clear on the slide, I'm sorry, it's a bit blurry, but there is a mentors button over there. So you can override the algorithm selections and explore the other alumni there. It does have the alumni profile, so you can see where they've worked, a bit about their work history, their job title, those sorts of things. So you can then connect with a chosen alumni. You can connect with 5 at any one time. So what happens when you click on the connect button? Must mention that this is really, really convenient, because finding, searching, matching and contacting the alum to arrange a meeting all happens within this platform. Do not go outside the platform to contact them. The people, the volunteers, the mentors that have signed up are expecting to be contacted in this program. They don't want to be contacted through LinkedIn, because the role that they're looking to provide for you is mentor, and you're their mentee. They're not offering to be a professional association of yours at this point, but who knows, that could happen. So what you need to do when you click on connect is you type in a description, and the description there is basically a self-introduction, succinct, clear email message to introduce yourself and suggest what you'd like to discuss in the topics of conversation with them. Again, emphasising not asking for a job, okay, but I'm looking for insights in what a day in the life of an X, is like. How did you get into your first role? What would you recommend for a graduate coming into this competitive job market within your industry? How can I stand out in my application in your field? Okay, now you can also, once you proceed to propose the time, so you do the message, proceed to propose the time, and it also sets you up with the Melbourne University Zoom link, okay, the Zoom account. So everything is done through this platform, and I would really recommend that you explore that option. Okay, so thinking about extending your network using LinkedIn. Okay, so here are some top tips, and I'll also mention here that we do have a Mastering LinkedIn session, which is very popular, that we offer as our usual careers and employability workshop. It happens quite often. So I encourage you, if you'd like to learn more about LinkedIn and how to use it, it would be good to also join that session. So definitely LinkedIn is a very powerful tool for networking, and particularly in this more virtual world that we're working in at the moment. So, and social media can be a bridge that really helps you establish industry authority and career opportunities if done right. It allows you to follow people and allows people to follow you as well. So it's important to craft a great professional brand. Okay, you have to have that identity on social media. So it's a good idea to really start with a professional and recent photo, and also develop your bio, okay, your biography. What do you want to tell people about yourself? Okay, to really set yourself up. This is who I am, this is what I'm studying, these are my skills, and this is what I hope to go into. So that's the about section on your LinkedIn profile. So it needs to be engaging and articulate who you are as a professional. Okay, it's a great place on LinkedIn to have your experience. It needs to be up to date and highlight your skills. You can have posts which reflect your learning, professional experiences and skills. So what have you been engaged in at uni? What have you done in your LEAD program? What have you done as part of the Leaders in Communities Award, if you're in that? What are you doing in your volunteering pursuits? Have you worked on a project? Okay, so be mindful of who else you're including in photos or representing, or who you're tagging within this. But it can be a great way to really showcase what you're doing and what your skills are. Okay, and it's also really good to make meaningful connections. Now, instead of just connecting with people, if you've met them, it's okay to send them that connection, like, oh yes, I remember so-and-so from my tutorials, or I remember speaking to them at an event. But if you're reaching out to someone, maybe they're a connection of someone in your network already, it's good to send them a message and tailor it to them. So there's some example text there. Hi, so-and-so, it was great to meet you at whatever event you attended or wherever you met them. I see we're not yet connected, and as a fellow social work industry professional, for example, I would value having you in my network. And that's just a little bit of a reminder or a little bit of an introduction, and they're going to then consciously know, that you're connecting to them. And you might also want to mention maybe you're connected via a colleague or someone else that they are more closely connected with.
Yes,
Okay.
Sophie, can I just add, sorry, it's interesting, this the connectedness through LinkedIn. I think there's a little bit of etiquette that some people fail to sort of recognize, is that you're less likely to make connections if you just go and just try and add as many people as you can that you've never met or exchanged an email with or never spoken to. And I think, because I get a lot of requests in my LinkedIn profile, and it's not that I don't want to add people to my network, but I like to make those meaningful connections. And you said that, because it's nicer to connect with someone which you've had a conversation with, even if it's via email, or through a forum, or through an industry night, or through a meeting. I think it creates a greater bond. So that means you can reach out to them more often. It doesn't hurt reaching out to people, but I think there's you need to find the balance between just Googling people, adding them, trying to add them to, because it does change the dynamic of that person being part of your network. I think that's just, I just wanted to share that with everyone on the call, is that LinkedIn is fantastic, absolutely. And if you can nail it to the points that you've sort of put out there, I think it puts you in a good stand. But just be mindful that, there is that, too much. There's that too much kind of situation. And yeah, you said before, it doesn't hurt to ask, but also having some connection why you're adding that person is the key to maintaining that network, I think.
Yeah. So it is about quality, not quantity, as you say, Tavita. It's not a popularity contest. You've got to think, why am I connecting to this person? Are they relevant to my career journey? Is it good to know them? Would it be good to keep in contact with them? And you've mentioned about maintaining your network. I'll get onto that a bit later. But realistically, think, how many people can you maintain meaningful connections with? Okay, that's a point to consider. So once your profile is all up to date and you know how to connect with people, with some etiquette, and also this is, imagine these people are professionals and you need to come across not as a student like, I'm just doing a really bad stereotype there, I know, but, think about how you would like to be addressed. This person could have significant experience. So it's about better to be more erring on the side of formal and professional than too casual, even if you have met them personally. Okay, so it's important to realize with your LinkedIn profile, you can start following industry leaders, peers, and professionals, okay, who write about your industry, media professionals who write about your industry and are across it. And this is going to then bring news and current information to you, okay, in who you're following. So in your bio about section, you're going to reference your industry, and then you might actually start to gain relevant followers as well. People will start to find you. Okay, so it's important to think about, you're trying to craft an industry specific news feed that allows you to engage with and share your insights and opinions about your profession. Okay, if you're sharing articles, add your takeaways from the piece to encourage dialogue with people. So rather than just sharing, you could say, reading this interesting article, the particular point I took away from this was X, and then people can use that as a hook to connect in and comment further, again, about that deeper and more meaningful connection. So the more engagement you can create around your industry online, the more you can establish relevant connections. Recruiters, event organisers and journalists may start to find you for opportunities. Okay, so as I mentioned, in the Ask the Alumni last section, using the alumni tool within LinkedIn can be used for research, and that can be a way to build connections as well. Again, approaching people within LinkedIn with that message to frame who you are and why you're connecting with them. So just to confirm, the Ask.Alumni program is different and a self-contained platform, as opposed to using the alumni tool in LinkedIn to find University of Melbourne alumni to connect with. Okay, so thinking about making a positive impression, okay, that's really important. It can lead to opportunities. So this is about the importance of preparation, whether you're meeting an individual for a mentoring session or attending a virtual networking event, workshop, or even in your tutorials or seminars in your course. Okay, so a recent example I can give of a student who's made a really good impression in an Ask.Alumni meeting was a student within the commerce, within FBE, Faculty of Business and Economics, and the student met with someone from Canva, which is that infographic new whiz-bang company. So she met, I just conscious my sound is dropping out, I think, a little bit. She met with a professional from Canva, and in her discussion, she asked if they did have an internship program. She wasn't asking for an internship, she was asking about the program that they offered. And the mentor in that Ask.Alumni meeting said to her, do not bother sending your resume through that application process, the internship, send it directly to me. Okay, so she must have made a really good impression with that person. She was using Ask.Alumni, and that set up an opportunity for her over and above students that don't make that proactive networking attempt. Okay, so moving on to, sorry, that was a bit of a funny way. Sorry, my animations weren't quite right there. But thinking about making an impression, the key elements of this are researching your audience. Know who your audience is. Research who you might want to be meeting and their interests. So for example, if you had arranged an Ask.Alumni mentoring session, you could research that person through the company website, use LinkedIn to gain a little bit more knowledge about who they are and their work history. Come up with some ways of how your background and interests match the people that you could be speaking with, and find common ground with them. Okay, so ask questions about the other person, identify any shared interests you have with the person, and show that you understand the other person's point of view. Okay, and it brings to the next point of showing genuine interest. Be interested in that person, be interested in demonstrating that you're listening, okay, active listening, and highlight the key points of what the person has said to you in your responses. So you could say, like, building on that idea of leadership in the workplace. What do you think the components of being a great leader are? Okay, so really building on that conversation. So in terms of researching your audience, I've put in the resources that you can research people through LinkedIn, the company website, and be aware of library guides. These are under general library guides, and I've put this on the resources of IBIS World and Company 360. These are industry reports about organisations. It gives the financials, but it also gives the key people in those organisations. Okay, so and it's going to help give you that informed background to speak with them, knowing that you haven't just read, you know, a headline in a newspaper about their company. You've actually gone to the trouble to research it and find about, you know, more information than the usual person might see. Okay, so okay, we'll keep on moving on. So moving on importantly to body language. So there are some basic do's and don'ts of body language, and you may think body language isn't so important in this virtual world, but I would say that that isn't really correct. Okay, because you can still gauge a person's posture, their facial expressions, how they're communicating ideas. Okay, so thinking about, we're looking at the pie graph up the top, and this is Albert Mehrabian's 7-38-55 rule of personal communication. So basically, this research has, and it's drawn up on time and time again, that basically words account for 7% of communication. Tone of voice is 38%, and body language accounts for 55% of personal communication. So yes, in the virtual world, maybe the body language is cut down a little bit, but it's still really important. So not everyone, you know, is comfortable sharing their video in a virtual world, but the ability to connect visually is one of the most significant benefits of virtual meetings. I know when I run student workshops, and I've heard it from people who have been delivering tutorials and seminars to students, people are reluctant to turn on their video, but think about the importance of having your video on and thinking about the importance of body language in your communication style. So eye contact actually boosts oxytocin. It's a social bonding chemical, and it forges a closer connection with people on the call. So it helps people feel seen and indicating that they are more important and aren't being ignored. and this elevates their serotonin or happiness chemical levels. So if you're on virtual meetings, be prepared to share your video and set the expectation that the video will be shared when scheduling meetings. Okay, so that's a really important thing to do. I know it can be quite confronting, but working in this world and maybe even going into the future, we will be faced with virtual connections more often. Okay, so it's important to enhance active listening skills. So you can try the following of smiling or having a neutral, attentive face and head nodding. Okay, so not everyone needs to do a big cheesy grin. It's also about feeling comfortable and what's natural for you. And a fake smile will certainly be detected. So it shows that basically smiling or having that resting neutral face or positive face shows that you're listening actively. Having appropriate eye contact shows that you're listening to a person. Now, I know this is different for different cultures, so this is something to be navigated on an individual basis, and also in mirroring what a person is maybe giving to you. So it isn't just enough to share a video. We need to make eye contact or appropriate eye contact as dictated culturally and is appropriate. So you need to balance in a virtual world, looking at the faces of others on the camera, but also looking into the camera lens. Okay, so if I were looking at Tavita's photo now, I would be off to the side, but I'm aware that you see me through my interaction with the camera lens. So although that is disconcerting in communication, you need to practice doing that for networking. Okay, remember to smile into the camera and make sure your smile reaches your eyes. Smiling at yourself boosts serotonin, and smiling at others boosts oxytocin. So if they smile back, you get a dopamine boost as well, which is a pleasure chemical that comes into it. So it makes that interaction feel genuine, okay, and positive. So posture is something else to be important, is to be mindful of. So lean slightly forward or sideways while sitting, slight slant of the head or resting the head on one hand to be engaged in listening. Okay, so be aware in virtual meetings, people see us as a close-up, and our posture, facial expressions and gestures become more important. We need open body language, and also demonstrating confidence is key. We need to own our space, but also be relaxed as well. So it's a whole mixture of things that you have to really consider at once. But try to relax, open your shoulders, breathe, mirror the other person's body language, avoid fidgeting, and give 100% of your attention. Okay, so there's some key tips around that. And on this infographic here, we do have the handshake. If we hopefully can ever go back to handshaking, be mindful that a firm handshake is an expectation, and that makes a good impression as well. In the virtual world, I don't think we've discovered a virtual handshake as yet, or a fist pump. Okay, so we've covered off there on body language, some do's and don'ts. So now we need to address conversational skills. So conversational skills are key, and now we know that we're faced with this additional challenge of engaging in virtual conversations. So it's important to be aware that technology does create an additional layer for communication. So we need to have proper projection of our voice, checking to be sure we can be heard, and having vocal flexibility. So that vocal flexibility creates interest for listeners and can capture and hold their attention. Hopefully I'm still capturing your attention. So now I know that initiating conversations and speaking with someone you have just met for the first time can be daunting, especially within a professional context, and especially within a professional context within a virtual world. So recognise this is a challenge, even for natural extroverts. I've been to a networking event. I'm studying part-time. I went to a networking event and I was actually really reluctant to speak to people. So luckily I found someone who was a friend of a friend of a friend from years ago and was able to talk to them, but it was daunting for me. So I just want to recognise that building connections and networking does not come easily, and some people are definitely faced with further challenges. You can feel like a fish out of water, especially in new contexts and meeting experienced professionals. Initiating conversations can seem overwhelming for people who may consider themselves introverts or who are neurodiverse, and many of us who experience anxiety. But I want you to please know that conversational skills can be learned and improved with planning and practice. And this is something you'd be welcome to book into a careers appointment with us, to even just practice asking questions and conversing and having that time to hone your skills. Okay, so conversation guide. So talking about using, this is the FORM acronym to effectively structure a conversation. Now, not all conversations will cover all 4 parts of this. The lighter the colour, the less likely a conversation will get to that stage, but it's good to have the F covered off, like familiar questions that you could ask people as an opener, okay, to open up discussion with them. So the familiar information could be asking about other people and share a little bit about you. What brings you here? Do you know many people here tonight? Okay, what is your interest in the focus of this of the topic that we're looking at here today in this networking event? You could talk about your occupation or their occupation. So ask a person about their work and tell them about your work as well. What do you do for work, or how do you spend your time? Talk about how your jobs are alike or different, and try to keep it wide open, as not all people will be working. Okay. You could talk about recreation. So obviously for a professional networking event, you're more likely to focus on the occupation and the familiarity there. But you could get to the point of chatting to the person for quite a while, and you might branch off into asking about hobbies, sport, volunteering, things they do for fun. Okay, what do you do in your spare time? Those sorts of things. And the M stands for motivation. So asking to see what's important to the other person, even what do you enjoy most about your work? Now, sometimes, so I've talked about having conversations at networking events or meetings, and you need to prepare thoroughly also to have conversations with a mentor. So having a conversation with a mentor, such as in the Ask.Alumni platform or a faculty mentoring program, or with one of your network links, it's important to understand the need for preparation. You wouldn't just book an appointment with a professional and just assume that you're going to be able to have a conversation. You need to prepare thoroughly. So something like the Ask.Alumni mentoring session would be what we call a career informational interview. Okay, so these are basically an interview with a person who's currently engaged in a job, industry or organisation that interests you, and the aim is to build up more information about that sector. Okay, again, this is not a job interview. Just like you wouldn't ask someone to marry you on a first date, you wouldn't ask someone for a job in your first meeting. Okay, so there are many benefits of a career information interview. So you're going to obtain first-hand current information about working in a particular field or about a particular position. You're going to initiate professional relationships and expand your network of contacts. This will help you prepare for future job interviews, but in this, fortunately, you're the interviewer, so you can prepare the questions and look to delve into their expertise and find out more. And for interviewees, at the very least, this is a chance for them to reflect on their own position, their career, and they're probably going to enjoy reflecting and sharing their insights with you. And this is an opportunity where they may then keep you in mind for future opportunities also. So when I talked about potentially being nervous or worried or not being a natural extrovert, this is where it's a great idea to develop a question bank. And I've included these questions in the resources also. So having a range of questions. Can you tell me about your background and how you became interested in this field? So that's a really nice open question that gives someone plenty of potential to pick up and run with that conversation. They might also ask you, and what about you? Okay, so be prepared with an answer. So having some standard questions like these ready to roll is reassuring. And you can even, on a virtual appointment, you could have all these questions written down next to you or up on a wall in front of you and have them ready to go. So what does the average working week look like for you? What's the most rewarding part of your job? So these are questions that you can't necessarily find the answers to online, okay? And this is really important in these sorts of engaging conversations with people. Really, I want to reiterate the importance of active listening, because then you're going to be able to ask a follow-up question building on what they're talking about, okay? So you can have a sort of list of standard questions, and then you might also have some additional icebreaker questions, which are a little bit more left of centre or could open up some different conversations. So it could be something like, what talent or potential do you have that is not fully realised in your current job? You've got to think whether this is appropriate at the time as well, and gauge your audience. Sort of question like, what single activity at work, if you could do every day, what would most increase your appreciation and success at your current job? What's something you believed early in your career but think differently about now? So they're the sort of like outside the box questions which could generate some interesting conversations. So last session I touched on having an elevator pitch prepared. So this is important as an introduction, and I mentioned you can use it in a job interview for a tell me about yourself question on the top of your resume for your career profile. But the elevator pitch is something you can plan and prepare, have ready to roll, and you do need to adapt it if you're going to use it to speak to a career professional as opposed to meeting a student at a networking event. So you'll need to adapt it to suit your audience. But basically, here's an example of an elevator pitch. So, hi, I'm Faraz. I'm currently studying environmental engineering at the University of Melbourne, and I'm interested in becoming a management consultant. My key strengths are my ability to solve technical problems and explain concepts in a user-friendly way. I'm interested in furthering my knowledge of design and modelling software and combining this with my passion for sustainability. I'm currently seeking an internship with an organisation where I can apply my skills. Okay, so that does sound quite a mouthful to say. So you might think about having a really scaled down one that you feel comfortable in saying. Something like that could be a bit more like at a job interview, but you would expand on that detail to pitch yourself and express your unique selling point to a networking opportunity. Okay, and there's no one way to have that elevator pitch. It's just something you need to prepare yourself, and you need to tailor to situations as well. Now, what I would recommend doing is practicing your elevator pitch. Okay, really, this is breaking it down into the parts of an elevator pitch. So answering the questions, so you could write this out, type it out, who are you? Capture the listener's attention and present the problem that you solve. So basically, how would you fit into whatever they're doing in industry or for a company role? What do? You could talk about previous, current roles, projects you've been involved in. Why are you unique? Okay, what are your skills and abilities, and how do they differ from other people? Consider professional accomplishments and transferable skills that you have that make you a standout. And what are your goals, and what's in it for that person or that company for you to provide for them? So you've got to sort of intrigue a person, capture their attention, and talk about yourself. Okay, so this is definitely something you would develop brainstorm your ideas, practice, refine, edit, reorder your ideas for flow, and adapt the version for professional or introducing yourself to another student. Okay, now a couple of resources, and again, I've put these into the resources list. There's an elevator pitch review tool, okay, within the Smart Resume platform. So this Smart Resume tool does give you feedback on your resume, and I'd really encourage you to look into that. But it does have an elevator pitch section, and this will video you delivering your elevator pitch, and it will give you artificial intelligence feedback on how often you smiled, your eye contact, your hand gestures, and give you feedback on your expression, overuse of words, all those sorts of things. So encourage you to do that.
So Sophie, can I just jump in there? We've got a question from the group there is, can we write elevator pitches in our bio or about section in LinkedIn profile?
Yes, exactly. And I was going to mention that. So I've done that myself, and you're welcome to look me up, and please feel free to, don't look at my LinkedIn as the bastion of a great example. I'm trying to work on it myself, but I have used this elevator pitch builder. So this so I've said the Smart Resume tool, you can have the elevator pitch review tool, it videos you, but on the Employ Me resource platform that we also have, so that's that orange panel there is an elevator pitch builder. So that's this tool here. So this is where it will take you through and ask you some prompt questions, and you can go through and answer the questions. And that's what I used for my LinkedIn profile about section, exactly right. Okay, so I'm still working on mine. I'm probably going to tweak it. The elevator pitch questions are good, but then you're going to have to edit it for flow and what makes sense for you. But yeah, great question. Okay, and that can be then used for the tell me about yourself interview question as well. So it's very important to have that elevator pitch that you feel comfortable rolling with. Okay, I'm just mindful of time. I've got a few slides left, but hopefully we'll be able to hang around for questions as well. So really important experiences, anything that you're involved in, and experiences that you have will mean that you're building connections, and these will provide a greater network for you. So I hope people are involved in volunteering, part-time or casual work, internships, exchange programs, although that's looking a bit dubious and sad at the moment, student clubs. What are you in the GSA? Are you in the LEAD program? Are you in interest groups within your community? Okay, so it's really important to keep a record of these experiences. Think about, who did you meet? Could you build on that initial meeting? Is it worth a follow-up email to them? Okay, something else that I recommend that you do in having that idea about presenting yourself as an industry professional ready for work rather than a student who has just finished their course is by joining professional associations linked to your industry. So there's a few of them listed down here. So this would be something to ask. You could Google your subject, your course sort of area, the industry, and put in the word professional association, or it could be a really good idea to start this conversation with your network of your course coordinators. So Engineering Australia, I've had a look at all these. They have a student section, they have training and events and resources. Some professional associations do have a free student membership, so worth checking that out. Financial Services Institute of Australasia has a mentor program, professional development, industry content and news. Public Health Association has internships, jobs, news, a blog, events, webinars, a virtual conference. And the IEEE is the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, and that is for engineering, computing, technology, information around the globe, and has continuing professional development. The Australian Council for International Development has learning news resources. It's got a research development impact network. Okay, so it's got all these sorts of things. And the BMES is Biomedical Engineering Society. That's got meetings, events, and that actually has 30 webinars that are archived, but they're available on YouTube without even joining the professional association. So I'd really encourage you to look into professional associations. Now, quickly jumping on to maintaining connections. I'll have to go over this quite quickly, but like Tavita mentioned before, yeah, you can have thousands of people on LinkedIn connected to you, but what is that going to add? Okay, the importance is to maintain the conversations and maintain the connections. So at a networking event, or if you've been speaking to someone at a virtual conference, you sometimes need to be able to exit the conversation, but thank them for their time and ask if it's okay that you stay in touch. You could suggest that you might like to connect with them on LinkedIn. You could do it at the time, find each other and say, thanks a lot, I'll be in touch in the future and I'll look forward to seeing your posts. Follow up could be relevant. So if you've had an Ask.Alumni or mentoring meeting with someone or spoken to one of your academic staff about any opportunities, you could send a short personal message thanking for their time, indicating what you've taken away from the conversation, you know, and see if you can message or join them on LinkedIn. And be patient. So sometimes people might not get back to you. It might have been that they don't have time or something's happened, but, you know, take the hint a little bit as well and read the situation. You might not be able to maintain a connection with everyone you meet, but the importance is reaching out, you can still show interest in what they're doing and follow them on LinkedIn and comment on their posts, for example. Okay, so key takeaway from this session, hopefully you've developed an understanding of your network and understanding how wide your potential network is. Being important to be proactive and seek out new experiences and opportunities to extend and maintain your network. And hopefully we've got the idea across that networking is a skill. It can seem overwhelming, but know that you can take steps to build your confidence in making connections, and you never know where these connections may lead. Okay, so again, just going over a couple of the resources. So please know, I know from the last session I delivered, some people did book in for a one-on-one virtual appointment with one of us in the careers advice space. So please don't hesitate to book in for any careers information, advice, practicing interviews, developing your LinkedIn profile, your elevator pitch, anything that I've raised today and more. Next steps. So just to identify, we have an identifying and promoting your skills workshop coming up. We've got Australian business culture discussion, a build your experience discussion, creating competitive job applications, writing a standout cover letter and preparing interviews. So these are all advertised on Careers Online. So I'd encourage you to register. Hopefully you might have a little bit of time yet, now that you've completed the semester, or hopefully you have. And just flagging that these sessions are coming up for graduate research students in particular. Okay, so that brings me to the end. I think I'm 1 minute over. So just to remind you, there's the Ask.Alumni link. And if you have, if you're currently registered with the Leaders in Communities Award, know that this session does count for professional development in the Leica Award also. So hopefully I've managed to convey the importance of building a network and maintaining a network, and it could have enormous benefits for you in your career and also for you in developing your professional profile. So that's all from me, Tavita. Thank you, but I'd be happy to have a couple of questions if people have them.
Great, thanks so much, Sophie. Really appreciate the session. A lot of content there, but really good content. To be able to reiterate that it's really important to make sure that you maintain those networks, get out there. Your networks are bigger than you probably think, I think is one of the key messages out there. And because sometimes our networks in places we don't think, like even asking your unit coordinator, you know, about that time when, you know, in the social working, so why not? Why wouldn't you reach out to those people who would have an extended network? So we can take some questions if you have time, guys, to put the questions through on the Q&A. Otherwise, in the meantime, I'm going to ask Andrew just to run us through sort of an update of what's coming up over the next week from GSA. So Andrew, can you just give us an update?
Hey Tavita, so just running through what we've got for the first week of the break. we're continuing with the coffee promotion. I'm not sure if there's any left at the moment, but next week there will be about 100 coffees for students to redeem. We've also got yoga with the Graduate Yoga Society on Tuesday at 12 p.m. At 3 p.m. on Tuesday, which is the 7th of July, we have Meet Your Grad Representatives. So we'll be talking to some counselors and some grad representatives as well. For that, on Wednesday, the 8th of July, there's a midweek workout at 11. And also, we're going to be broadcasting our career development webinar at 3 p.m. And following that, the next day on Thursday, we have a healthy meal choices on a budget webinar with Silva Narazatian, which is at 3 p.m. on the 9th of July. And then I think we're going to have a Feel Good Friday on the Friday at 3 p.m.
Fantastic. So another jam-packed week, and although it is semester break, and a lot of people are probably letting their hair down, and sorry, researchers, probably not so much for you guys, but it's probably business as usual, but we're still maintaining some support over the break and into semester 2, and we're designing a new orientation, virtual orientation for the first time for GSA, so hopefully people can get involved and still stay connected and meet other people within the cohort or from different faculties. So if there are no other questions from the session, I'd like to, first of all, thank everyone for coming on board today. Hopefully you got something out of it. I did, and I really appreciate the time that Sophie's put into this from Careers and Employability, and appreciation to Andrew for supporting us on this session. So we will be putting up this recording later on, hopefully. At least the resources will be going out to you, as Sophie mentioned, and some great resources that are mentioned from Andrew. So from everyone here at GSA, we'd like to thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your week. Good afternoon.
Thanks for having me, Tavita. Pleasure. See you again soon.
See you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.